let's keep this going. So I've shared out the link in the chat for these called the regional plan. I'll just drop that again there one more time. Boom, it's in the little chat window. And if you don't see the chat window, you can click the little talkie icon again that's in the left bar of icons in the Hangout, and that will pop that up on the right. So hopefully that will help. So I'm really appreciative to Chital who helped put this together. And I can see a whole bunch of icons here, so obviously you guys are arriving, which is great. And so what this is as we talked about, a sense of we need to do a better job of scaling and supporting the NetSquared organizers, and that's not going to happen with me just based out of Vancouver, because one, I'm going to be hit by a bus one day, and two, I have no idea what's actually going on in your communities. You guys are the local experts there. So we're really thinking about, as Chital said, recruiting a couple people who want to play this ambassador role. And that ambassador role would have a couple additional responsibilities because they would be Uber volunteers who we love. And so those ambassadors would sort of create what we've talked about here, which is like basically these kinds of calls, but at a local basis. And that'll be useful because one, you guys can share what's actually going on in your local context, like upcoming conferences or events. And two, I don't require anyone to wake up at 6 in the morning because you're all much more likely to be in the same time zone. So there's a bit of wins there. These ambassadors would really act as mentors. So they would help new meetup groups who aren't necessarily not quite sure what their next event should be or how they would recruit co-organizers. They would get to share the expertise and best practices that they've established over the years. And we'd also have those regional people be the person who puts together a face-to-face event. Because my experience has been that when we actually bring organizers together face-to-face, we're energized and engaged because it's really good to talk to someone who's obsessed with the same things we are. Otherwise, sometimes this can be a little bit lonely work. So that's sort of what the duties of those ambassadors would be. In exchange for being these really amazing volunteers, we've got a bit of a benefits package, which you can see here. And so the exact details of what that's going to look like are to be confirmed because we're still just about to lock down the budget here at TechSoup. But what we propose is a travel and education bursary so that our ambassadors can go around to other tech and social change events and continue their own personal education and also get out there and spread the good word. We would also bring those people, like we did with the GLC, together face to face so that they could learn from each other as ambassadors, and we would provide some support and best practices on how they can better be mentors to the other NetSquared organizers in the region. And then we'd also do a bit of that through a quarterly call where we'd talk about best practices. And more generally, those ambassadors would be our brain trust, the people we pick on because they have been long-term engaged organizers who have a lot to share. And so we'd be fools not to steal their best ideas. So as you can see here in the document, we hope to start this around September 1st. By August 1st, we'll start having the application process out there for you. But that, in a nutshell, is kind of what we're looking at. Do you guys have general questions now that you've just heard that? And I know we just threw this document at you. So I guess my first question is this something that sounds interesting? Do you think this is a compelling package of we're asking for more from you as volunteers, but we would also get more back from you? Okay, so Sarah's first question is, what kind of time commitment are we asking for? And I think the answer to that is definitely a couple hours a month. We're probably looking at maybe 5 to 8 hours a month between, the time you're spending between other organizers with your ambassador peers. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Chital, take that on. Oh, great. And so I think that would be a part of it. But I really think where we are going to be spending the most of that time is in that mentorship and working with the other organizers in your region. And I, as a community manager, would feed you with prompts, like here's a good discussion topic, or here's some great tips for you to talk about, or like here's some tweets that you might want to circulate out to that wider network. But we think this is going to be a fairly light commitment. We're not asking for this to be a part-time job for you. We really think that this is going to be something which just builds on what you're already doing in your community and allows you to exercise those community building skills that you already have. No, I'm super excited about this because I think when we did the Global Leadership Council, I saw like there was a lot of really amazing stuff that came out of that, and Tyranny was part of that too. And I know Seth has had those chances to sometimes go to some of the conferences where we bring other organizers together as well. But but I think if we can use these regional organizers to provide more opportunities for us to get face to face and learn from each other and build those relationships, and we can do that because we're going to be using these NetSquared camps even more explicitly as our excuse to come together. Then I think there's a huge win there, and I can do more of that because if I can't take all 50 of the organizers to San Francisco, that is too expensive, unfortunately, as much as I would love to do that. So it allows me to bring some of that face-to-face experience to more of the organizers, which is another top priority for me. So, other questions or things that come at you, and if you are shy, like Sarah is, you can always type questions into the box too. Sorry, Stephen, you're cutting out a little bit there, but I think we caught the gist of it, which is to say we at NetSquared can do a better job of supporting new and prospective organizers because that's the hardest part about when you come on, and that's where we have the highest drop off. And so if we provide better support to these regional ambassadors and give them the resources that they need to actually bring new people into the fold and keep them because I want people as part of this family. I think that's a real win. And but I can't just ask you guys to do that without providing appropriate support. So this is part of how we hope to do that. So Sarah has a question about the regions and are they defined yet? And I think the answer to that is not 100% yet. We have some strong ideas about how, like, some regions are pretty obvious to us. Like, we think Latin America is, because of geography and language, a really obvious place for us. But no, we don't have all of those regions fully defined yet. Especially how we might carve up North America is something that's still in flux and is part of our homework, and will probably honestly depend a little bit upon who applies because of the language and cultural skills and the context people are in. But I think actually I had a discussion just the other day with Tierney, who was really actually had some insightful comments on the challenges of regions, because sometimes I'm defining region as a continent, and she thinks that can sometimes be a bit ridiculous. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you think the regions might work more effectively? Yeah. And I think that raises a good point, which is as we go through this discussion, I have a feeling that if you look at the NetSquared map, it's very nodal. We're not evenly distributed across the globe, and so I think we're going to focus in on those areas where we have high concentration of existing NetSquared groups, and it may be that actually it will be my responsibility to focus more on those who are not part of an existing regional thing. But again, Chital and I are going to have to talk this through, but this feedback is very helpful. Thank you. So we've got time for one more question, and then I want to just jump into Social Media September, which is the other thing I'm actually really, really excited about. All right, I'm sure you have no more questions. That seems like such a lie to me, but I appreciate that you've all given us some time to move on to the next thing. So I'm going to be sharing another document link with you in the chat. Boom. And what I've done is I've created a new section within the Organizer's Handbook. And it's for something called Social Media September, which, if you've been watching the mailing list, I've been talking about for a couple months now. And it's really us trying to say what worked really well for the Digital Storytelling Challenge, and how can we bring the best parts of that to us, to the organizers, and also how can we work really more effectively and more closely with TechSoup Global, who has always been the sponsor of NetSquared, but sometimes they've been the silent partner, and I actually think there's a lot of opportunity when you bring them together. So Chital, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your ideas around bringing these theme months together, and also the benefits to both of us of working a bit more closely with TechSoup. Cool. Yeah, that's totally it. Which is like we're off all doing amazing work in our own communities. Um, but because it's so diverse, it's sometimes hard for us to share amongst each other and with the outside world the energy and the amazing stuff that is happening across the network. And so by working together, we absolutely share some of that excitement, but it also makes it a little bit easier for us to tell the story of what we're doing when we come in and do something in a month together. Because I can explain it to TechSoup more easily, and I can explain it to the outside world. Like this is why NetSquared is exciting, and it's because of this tangible, concrete thing. And I guess the last reason for why we are trying to do these theme months, and I hope to do about 3 of them a year, is because new organizers, especially, are a little bit lost when they come in to becoming an NetSquared organizer. Because basically, I give them the organizer's handbook and I say, like, here's 100 options of things you could do. Pick one, and they get lost in the paradox of choice. So to give people a little bit more of a concrete framework to play within, especially when they're new, I hope is also going to be more helpful. So let me just walk you through really quickly about the 4 optional pieces of the recipe we put together for Social Media September. Um, and then you guys can tell me about like what parts are exciting, what parts I really need to make sure are part of this wiki document we're putting together, and we'll go from there. So basically, here it is. It's September. It's gonna be a series of events for social media for social good, and those events, as I talked about, have 4 different flavors. So the first core piece is it says social media themed presentation or panel. And for a lot of us, this is the meat and potatoes. This is the core competency of what we deliver as NetSquared organizers, which is we've got experts in our community, and we invite them to come and present a case study or a skill with local nonprofits and tech folk. So we're going to be putting together, like we did with the Digital Storytelling Challenge, a bit of a guide on how to hold these events with some sample themes and ideas of who partners could be, and we'll have that ready for August 1st. But I think for many of you, especially the more organized people, you already have like speakers maybe you've dealt with in the past you could bring back to bring this kind of content into the events. The second piece is brand spanking new for some of you, but for others, you've done this already, and that's the social media surgery. And I know who's done it. So Tierney's done it before. Who else in this group has done a social media surgery? So if we weren't full, Amanda from Burlington has done one as well. And most of the people in the UK who are, I guess, sleeping at this point have done one as well. Oh, that's right. And Seth has done something which is a little bit similar, which is crowdsourcing change. His is much more group focused on a client, whereas the social media surgery is much more one-on-one support. But I think they definitely share the crowdsourcing change and the social media surgery, an essential element of doing very direct, like tangible help, where you can actually say like, oh, I solved this particular problem, as opposed to our more presentation style things. So I'm going to be putting together a bit of a guide around how to hold a social media surgery. It can be really easy, or you can make it super complex. But what it is, as I said, is it's really a patient and surgeon come together and do one-on-one help for maybe half an hour, and then they take their next appointment. And I'm going to be providing, for people who sign up, a bit of a dress-up kit where you can dress up or have someone in your team dress up like a social media surgeon, and I'm going to insist that you take photos because it's going to be ridiculous. But I'm kind of excited about that because, we don't need to wait for Halloween for dress up. So the third thing we're going to do is something that we're going to build on from the last events, which is the global tweet chat. And so we're going to be providing an opportunity for you as organizers and also for others who are within your community to host a 1 hour tweet chat on a sub-theme within the broader world of social media for social good. We'll provide you with a bit of a facilitator's guide, as well as like promotional copy that you can send out to your communities. Your job is basically to come up with 8 questions on a theme and then hold the discussion. If any of you have ever been part of the ComBuild chat, you'll actually find they're actually quite easy to facilitate. But so that's going to come through, and we'll start booking people around mid-August for that one. Then the last piece is we're going to take that social media surgery, but we're going to try and do it like this. We're going to do it in a Google Plus Hangout. So we'll do a virtual version of that. So again, what it will be is there'll be one-on-one appointment for people come in, and if any of you are interested in being a surgeon for an hour and like being there to offer help to people as they come in, that would be super cool. So that's sort of what it looks like overall. I'm just looking through the notes here, and I've got something here from Stephen about a logo. If you just want to explain a bit more about what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. That's a really great recommendation. I see Joyce nodding already. So we're going to put this in our to-do list because, yeah, I think we can absolutely create a bit of a branding here and maybe do a couple different formats. So like a Facebook cover image, something that fits more of a tweet style, so we can really put something up even for the whole month. I've been talking about thinking about this in other contexts, but I hadn't thought about it in this context. So that's a really good idea. And let me take some notes on that right now. Thank you. Do you guys have sort of other questions or great recommendations that would make this stronger and easier for you to do? Like I see from Tierney, really, you're just saying like tweet chats are good as long as people come up. And I think there's a really strong point. I think we're in a really good place for this because we've got the power of TechSoup's social media, which is much larger than NetSquared, because this is like this. Tweet chats can be organized by Michael, who leads social media for all of TechSoup. So I think that's going to help. And then the other thing we're going to do, which is better than we did last time, is we're going to really provide all of us in the community with pre-built promotional copy for tweets and Facebook posts. So you just need to cut and paste, but we're going to leverage the power of the fact that we have actually 50 meetup groups and bring all of our communities in together. So I actually think that's another way we're going to make sure we don't have empty rooms. Tierney, does that work? Do you have any recommendations on how we can bring people out to these tweet chats? Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's good to hear that. It also actually makes me think that one of the things I'm going to put down from my notes is that we try and do this with existing tweet chat communities. So bring in the ComBuild group, because I think it's nice to bring in people who are already familiar with tweet chats and know how to interact with them. as opposed to having to teach a new skill to people to this for the first time. So that's something I'm going to make sure I bring to Michael as well. Right, and yeah, so Sarah's talking about yeah, live streaming some of our events out, um, with tweet chats around there. So that should be part of actually some of the instructions in the guide. Is we're gonna provide a couple hints on how we can stream these events out more effectively as well. We are at this point about 5 minutes left. Um, Thank you so much for coming out today. Um, I was told, because I actually read it on Google's page, that we could bring up to 15 people into this, but that is not the case. So I'm afraid there are people who weren't able to make it in today. I've had at least 2 broken hearts because we were actually capped out at 10. So count yourself all as the lucky folk. But I'm taking notes, and I'm actually recording this whole event as well, so we'll have something to share with those who missed it. But it also means I'm going to look for a better solution which can not have a 10-person cap. And Sarah's saying, like, I should maybe look at the Google for Nonprofits, see if they have some other limits we can come up against. But this is your chance. You've got 4 minutes, so speak now or forever hold your peace. All right, then I have a very explicit question, which is I want hands up from you. Like, would you be interested in participating in at least one of the different things that we have got available as part of the Digital Storytelling Challenge? Like, do any of those capture your fancy? Would you be up for that? Hands up. All right, I've got 1, 2, there we go. Yeah, sorry, I may have mentioned something else. Yeah, the social media search, social media September stuff. There we go. Cool, excellent. I've got a couple of fake names in there. Sarah, I don't know if her thumbs up or not. She's still an icon. So this is where you get to say, like, if that doesn't work for you, I'd love to hear why. If it's because the timing isn't right, or if it's just not a good fit for you. Right, so Tyranny says, like, I am jam-packed through September, so I didn't get to you in time to get your time, which is like, as much as I've socialized this for the last month and a half, I only this week came out with details. So I get that hopefully if we do it next year though, I'll have it all preset. So that's good feedback. Oh, apparently there's something more important, says Tyranny. All right. So team, you are amazing, and I'm gonna be keeping you really busy, because between Social Media September and this ambassador work around the regions, there's going to be huge amounts of fun stuff, but hopefully it's going to be super fun. So thank you so much for joining us today. Stephen, oh my God, 6 in the morning. That's a gift. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. It always breaks my heart that I can never find a time that works for, like, the down under folk. And the rest of you, go have a grateful day. I will circulate out some notes and a bit of a video in the next 24 hours, you said, making a promise that you're scared about. And otherwise, we'll keep in touch in the next quarter, and I'll catch you on the mailing list. Thank you so much for being with us. It's a pleasure to be with you. Catch y'all.